welcome back to the show. My name is Chad. This is the Comics Multiverse, and this is the second part of my Dick Tracy Mad Cave Studios interviews. I have already talked to Alex Segura and Michael Moreci. It has is also is joining me today, so we're going to chat with him and find out about the book from his perspective and all that. So let me bring him in, and we'll do that. Hey, Mike.
Hey, how's it going?
It's fine. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Glad to be here.
Well, before we get talking about the book, could you tell me a little bit about your history of comics as a reader and, as someone who's in the industry?
Um, yeah, sure. As a reader, I guess, been reading comics, most of my life, like a lot of comic writers, I'd venture to guess. I got my start really with the series Hoax Hunters with Image, which is quite a while ago now. And since then, in terms of comics, I also work in film, and so I do that part of my career. But in terms of comics, I have since, since over the course of the years since Hoax Hunters, I've written, Stranger Things, Star Wars, just a number of Rick and Morty I'm writing now. So I've been lucky enough to work on a number of things in addition to my own creations like Wasted Space and Curse and Barbaric and things like that.
Okay. So, what kind of got you interested, or what made you want to take on this new Dick Tracy series with Alex?
Um, yeah, I mean that started. It's an interesting, I guess, origin story you could say. I'm a huge Dick Tracy fan, first and foremost. Remember reading the strips in the Tribune when I was a kid. So I have an affinity for the character himself and his fantastic world. Just has the best villains, best supporting characters. But in terms of like the origin of it, this actually dates back. And Alex might have mentioned this many years ago. We were trying to do this at Archie, and both of us had a very similar mindset of that, like, Dick Tracy hasn't had a proper, I don't want to say reboot. I really don't like that word, but a modernization the way many other characters have had. And it's a mystery as to why. But he hasn't had that, like, he's such an iconic character who really hasn't gotten a modern take ever. Any really attempts to do a Dick Tracy story that's come from different creators, and they've been very good attempts. But any attempts that have happened have really been trying to just replicate, what Gold did back in the day, and that's not what Alex or I really wanted to do. Now we wanted to stay true to the character, but we wanted to also, update him the way I always use the comparison, the way James Bond was updated with Casino Royale, still very much Bond, but just given a modern perspective to his character. So that was the attempt going in, and like I said, we tried this many years ago. And what happened was that it was set up to be a series at Archie. Alex was an editor at the time. He was going to co-write the book with me, and there was a rights problem in our that we didn't know, that Alex or anybody at Archie didn't know, or I don't think even the Tribune company knew. And because of that, we had to unfortunately cancel the book. But Alex and I, stayed committed to it, especially Alex, who, through his experience at Archie, knew the people at the Tribune company and stayed in touch and stayed vigilant and devoted. And when the rights became available, we were there to, snag them up. And that gave us our second attempt, which is what everyone's seeing right now in our upcoming release with Mad Cave.
So, what is it about the Dick Tracy character that kind of appeals to you?
Well, I love noir in general. I love detective stories, and he shares that. Dick Tracy shares those very classic roots dating back to the early 20th century of, you can kind of put him as a character, as a detective with, Marlowe or, James M. Cain character or any of those other, literary pulp, excuse me, literary pulp detectives. And he has, like I said before, like what makes him such an amazing comic book character, it separates him from, something that, Chandler or Kane or Hammett were doing, is that as a comic and as a long running comic, I mean, Dick Tracy ran for a very, very long time. He has a really, really rich world. There's these great, it's a great tapestry of wonderful supporting characters, his other police, Tess, friends, the kid, etc. There's all these amazing cast of good guys around him, but even better, that's the best part of any comic book character, like a Spider-Man or like a Batman. What's even better is that he has a fantastic rogues gallery, a almost unbeatable rogues gallery, because it's so vast, because Dick Tracy went for so long, and there's just so many great characters for Dick, to play off of, and that really appealed to me. That really made the character, you know, not just, I love the detective aspect, but he's kind of a little bit more than a detective, because he has this really interesting faces around him, and such a long-standing legacy. So it's always been something that I loved, and always, was, like I said, was just curious, why didn't anybody do anything more with this?
Now, you kind of mentioned his rogues gallery. Do you have a favorite rogue, rogues of his that either you are going to be featuring in this series or would like to eventually write about?
Well, we are featuring Flat Top. I think that's pretty well known. He's been on some covers and stuff.
Hmm.
He's probably my favorite. I like him. I like him because it's almost like he's the Joker, to, for, Flat Top is or Dick Tracy's Joker, so to speak. Where Dick Tracy is the rule following detective and very straight and narrow. And even that sort of deviates time to time. It has to, because the series went on for so long. But typically, Dick Tracy is, the knight in shining armor, the White Knight. Same thing as Batman. And then you have Flat Top, who's basically, anarchy. He represents, just utter chaos, and it's always the best. The best villains are always the ones who play off of, the hero in a very interesting way, that prevent, is their yin to their yang. Spider-Man has the same thing, with his best villains, and that's what makes, for me, Flat Top so fascinating. I love Flat Top. I think he's just a cool character in general. His design is really cool. He looks cool. Um, so he would be my favorite. I like also the mob bosses, being, I live in Chicago, so there's a lot of like, Chicago parallels of, like, Big Boy kind of being a Capone-ish, type character, and then there's Lips. So I like that aspect of it as well. And I like the blank. I like when Chester Gold would get weird. But if I were to pick one, I think it would be Flat Top.
Okay. Um, so I think, like probably most people my age, my first introduction to Dick Tracy was the movie in the what was it, late '80s, early '90s,
Yeah,
and
I think it was 90. Oh gosh, I should know this. I think it was like 91, I believe.
yeah, so that's kind of why I was, and they definitely showcased a lot of the villains in that, if I remember it correctly.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, the first scene, you get, who else is in it? Shoulders. You get Prune Face. You do get Flat Top, of course. Yeah, there's and that's not just in the first scene, but there's um, a lot of characters that they touch on in the movie, which is really cool, and they make them really very colorful. The whole movie is very colorful. Colorful. Mumbles is another one. So yeah, they do. They give you a lot of villains in that movie.
Now, kind of tell me about the process that you and Alex went through writing this. How did you guys, work together, play off each other, setting things up?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we're good collaborators, we're good friends. And we both, share very similar interests. We both really love crime fiction. We love the character, obviously. And I think we both have, it doesn't take really much for us to, come to consensus, so to speak, because I think we both ultimately want the same things. But we both share the load in terms of like breaking down the story. We'll talk and we'll figure out what an arc is going to be and how that breaks up and how we're going to reveal, for instance, in the first volume, there's a mystery at the core of it. We're going to see how we dole that out, how Dick Tracy figures things out. We want him to be a true detective and actually, figure things out, solve crime, and we'll go back and forth and we'll kind of break it down. Then we'll break down break down the arc, break down the issue. Then we divide it up and we both write our parts, bring it together. Each of us read, give a few notes, and that's kind of it. It's a pretty easy process. Alex and I have both been doing this, and by this I mean, writing comic scripts and writing crime or whatever for quite a while now. So I think we have, we're both pros, and I think it's a good thing that we both know know what we're doing, know what's expected. And we just deliver, and I think it helps each of us, do our best work and just help each other rather than get in each other's way.
And how did you work with the rest of the creative team? Geraldo Borges, the artist, and I know there was you had the creative consultant Chantelle Aimée Osman.
Yeah, I mean, Geraldo is a world-class artist. He's just absolutely tremendous. He's doing Thunderbolts, which I think is out now or coming out soon. I forget, but
It's out now. Yeah,
it's out now. Okay, yeah. So, but he is, anybody can see how tremendous he is. Very, very good guy, very nice guy, very committed. He really wants to. He really wants to do. I think he realizes, along with Alex and I, he realizes the importance of what we're doing here, trying to modernize this iconic character. And it's a heavy responsibility. I don't want to make it sound like we're taking it too seriously. It's not that, but we also want to be, we're all very mindful and respectful of what we're doing, taking this, nearly 100-year-old character and doing what we're doing. It's, I don't want to say it's a risk, but we also don't want to do it and be cavalier about it. And Geraldo's right there with us. He's really put a lot of work into everything that he's doing, and it shows. I mean, the pages are tremendous. His character designs are really, really sleek, really cool. Like they're identifiable as, Flat Top is identifiable, or Shoulders or Mumbles is identifiable, but then, they look unique enough to stand on their own from the comic, stand on their own from the movie, the Warren Beatty movie, and be their own thing. And that's not an easy thing to do. And Geraldo's done it, magnificently.
was there anything that you and Alex kind of had to, I don't want to say pull back on, but kind of as you were bringing Dick Tracy into a modern era, were there things that you wanted to do that maybe you weren't able to work in at this time?
I mean, there's things that we will be working in. We just couldn't, from a narrative perspective, get there in terms of like time and space. I mean, we want to do it all. We really want to.
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, there really isn't any. How do I say it? We didn't fence ourselves in any way. I think people see that there's some pretty surprising stuff that happens just in the first 3 issues alone. Like I said, we want to be respectful, but we also at the same time didn't want to be so reverent that we didn't do anything interesting, because you can you can find yourself in that trap as well, where you're just playing it so safe that like you don't do anything that really matters. And we didn't want to do that either. We wanted to have this be a real story with stakes and feels like it counts and feels like it matters. And in order to do that, you gotta break a few eggs, and we certainly did that. So no, I don't think we really, there's nothing, never been an idea that we said, no, we can't do that. We definitely never had that moment, and at least so far. And I think that's good. I think it's liberated us to do, like I said, make this an interesting story that has real stakes and feels like it means something.
Now, what was there anything beside about Mad Cave, as a publisher, besides picking the book up that made you guys want to work with them?
Yeah, there was a few things, that it's the quality of their books over their last, they're celebrating their 10-year anniversary, which
Mhm.
is quite an achievement. And the quality of their books over time has been always very high. Their Nottingham story, or sorry, Nottingham series is, I think, awesome. I wish there was more. And their staff is really good. Chaz, the editor we deal with most directly, is awesome. Really, really sharp, smart guy. Mike Martz is a tremendous editor who's done so much in the industry. It's a pleasure to work with him. Mark London. I can go on and on. They're really all sharp, dedicated people. And the more we, before we signed any deal, the more we spoke with them and the more that we interacted with them, the more we realized just how committed and dedicated they were and how excited they were about the project too. That it just became a really a natural fit, and it just made sense. And I can't imagine the book being anywhere else, to be honest. And I'm glad we're there, and it's been great.
Cool. Um, so before we kind of move on, was there anything else that maybe you wanted to mention about the book that maybe we haven't covered it yet?
Um, no, I mean, not really. I mean, I think, this the biggest thing is I want people to know is that the book really stands on its own. We're not, like I said, we're not trying to just homage Chester Gould. We're not trying to do what the movie has already done. Both those things are great in their own way. Both of those are I'm glad they exist in the Dick Tracy canon or universe, whatever you want to call it. But what we're doing is what we're doing, and it's not the same. I mean, it is true to the world, but it's not the same. So I think people who pick up the book will find that uniqueness, and I think that's going to really make it work. It's what I'm most excited about. That like we're doing our Dick Tracy, not Warren Beatty's
Mhm.
Dick Tracy, and not Chester Gould's Dick Tracy.
Okay. Well, we have a little more time. Would you like to play 5 questions?
Sure, would love to.
All right. Question number one. Who are your top, or who are your influences for your writing?
Uh that's a great question. I guess it depends. I'm kind of I don't mean this to slap myself in the back or pat myself in the back too hard, but I guess I'm kind of a chameleon when it comes to writing. Like
Mhm.
whatever I'm working on right at this moment is my biggest influence. I'm working on, for instance, I was recently hired. I've been working on this new script, and my main influences like Shane Black and Christopher McQuarrie. For a while, the movie that I did last year that I co-directed and wrote, my main influence was Steven Soderbergh. Um, in comics, it's always that's always changed. Dick Tracy. I read a lot of Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips anyway, but I've been reading a lot of Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips. So I feel like there's not one person or even a couple people that I can say influenced me the most because I draw influence from so many different places and so many different times.
Okay. Question number two. Is it easy, or I guess how difficult is it to kind of go from the comic book world to to your work in the movie world, or stuff like that? Which one are they? Do you get to use different parts of your brain for them?
Yeah. I mean, that's a good question. And technically, and I'm sure most people don't know this, is actually the other way around. I went from the movie world to the comic world.
Oh,
I was working in film in my 20s before I was working in comics. I was writing, I was making shorts, I was a production assistant actually for HBO. So I was in film pre anything I ever published in comics. But that said, it is definitely two different. I mean, there's overlap for sure. I mean, you're writing a script I don't want to say writing a script is writing a script and it's that easy and that, flippant about it, but like ultimately it is kind of very, very similar, but they are different, like in film, I feel like you can do, and this is going to sound like an oxymoron, or maybe not an oxymoron, but a contradiction. I feel like in film, I can lean more into visual, and having directed, especially, I've never drawn a comic, but now having directed a movie, the one thing I really learned directing a movie is, when you're a writer and writing a screenplay, you're thinking like, how much can I get in? How much cool dialogue? How much good stuff can I get in? And when you're a director and you're reading a script, or rather when you're directing a script, you're thinking, how much of this can I get out? And it's an experience I would have never known unless, having directed, you just want it to visually to speak for itself. And I feel like, one, because I have experience, but two, there's more, tools at your disposal of moving the camera and acting performances, which are, huge. So you can do a little bit more, with saying less, where I feel like in comics, I'm saying a little bit more especially because I'm not getting a performance, that's such a big thing. But yeah, I mean, to answer the question though, I do think it's similar, but I do think it's writing a movie is definitely different from writing a comic because you just have more tools at your disposal because the collaboration is a little bit more robust, having performers and light. So, someone does the light and how you're going to do sound and how score or music going to like elevate this moment and this scene and this character. So it is definitely different because you have such a broader and more expansive collaboration.
And do you find yourself preferring doing one or the other, or kind of both of this equally?
Yeah, probably both. I mean, I enjoy both for different reasons, for sure. And I have frustrations with both for different reasons.
Okay. See, question. I think we're on question 3. You're trapped on a desert island, and you can take 5 books, comics, runs that you want. What are you taking?
Did you say 5?
5. Yep.
Okay. I'm gonna go with can I cheat and take some movies as well? Do I have to
Sure.
be a player? Okay.
Yep. Sure.
I'm gonna take, speaking of Steven Soderbergh, I'm gonna take Out of Sight, one of my
Okay.
favorite movies. I'm gonna take Pierre Bogdanovich's Paper Moon, which I just adore. I'm gonna take books. I'm gonna definitely take some Brubaker with me. I'm not in my office, so usually I'd be able to look at my books and be like, "Oh, that book, this book or that."
Yeah.
And this is that moment where like you just can't think of a single thing. I would take a Mission Impossible movie with me because they're just endlessly fun. I think I have one more. I would take I would take a Billy Wilder movie. Which one? Just because they're so joyful. I'd probably take The Apartment. I'm gonna go with The Apartment. I would change this answer, by the way, every day, and one day it would be 5
Sure.
comics or whatever. But today, off the top of my head, those are my 5.
Sure. I completely understand. So you've kind of dabbled in, the DC universe, and I maybe a little bit in the Marvel universe, maybe.
One issue.
Okay. Well, is there a character, maybe a C or B list character in either of those universes that you'd kind of like take a shot at?
I mean, I've always, it's not, definitely not, this is an A list. I mean, I've always wanted to write Fantastic Four. It's been kind of in
Mhm.
my, Mount Rushmore of things I'd like to do. They'll never let me. But I would love to write Fantastic Four. That's definitely something that's on my list. And at DC, let me think. I mean, I'd like to write. Oh man, what would I like to do in DC? I mean, Dead Man would be. Oh no. The Question, definitely The Question.
Okay. I was kind of thinking, since you are kind of a noir person, then the question would probably be right up your alley.
Yeah, yeah. I wonder, did Alex say the question as well?
Okay, I would read that.
Yeah, I think. Well, I was saying I think Alex probably would say the same thing. Funny, we talk about that a lot. Which I think he might have written a short question, a short story for the question. Though I'm not
Mhm.
sure about that.
Okay. Question number 5. Star Wars or Star Trek? I know you've done a couple projects in the Star Wars universe, but I just figured I'd ask.
Oh, it's Star Wars. I've actually.
No.
This is probably going to come as a surprise to most people, although maybe not. I don't know. I've seen maybe one Star Trek movie, two maybe, and that's it.
Mhm.
That and Doctor Who I've seen like nothing, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. Actually, there should be no shame to like not watching things for anybody. But yeah, as like someone who really loves genre, just of all the things I've dedicate time to, and I spend my time watching. I literally watch hundreds of movies a year or TV and stuff like that. I've seen like one episode of Doctor Who and maybe a total of 6 hours of Star Trek.
Mhm. Okay. And is there a character in the Star Wars universe that you would like to kind of explore?
Um, I've been I'll be frank. I've been very lucky. I've written, gosh, I don't know how many Star Wars comics, a lot, many.
I'm,
Uh,
I'm looking at your list right now, so that's why I was kind of
uh,
asking.
yeah, I mean, I've been very fortunate in a lot of the hits that I wanted to cover. General Grievous. I've been able to write Obi-Wan, young Han Solo, the Bad Batch, various clones, Rafe, and I've touched on almost all of them, and
Mhm.
it's been a privilege for sure. And I'm still writing. I'm still actively writing Star Wars stuff. But yeah, I have been very lucky that like I feel like I've checked that list pretty thoroughly, which has been great. I'm very happy for that.
Now, as a side, are you up to date on the Bad Batch series that just came back for the last season?
Well, no, I usually watch that with my sons, and they've been busy with various things, so we haven't been able to sit down and watch it, but we will soon because we all
Okay.
three of us love that series. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean it's very rewatchable.
Definitely. Yes, absolutely. I think we watched the first season twice, if I'm not mistaken. And I know they pop it on at various times. They just kind of click an episode and just start watching.
Well, I like the not to get off too far off, but I like how they kind of have made all the different various animated shows kind of join together when you see the Bad Batch in the Clone Wars, then you see you know the Rebels also in the Bad Batch, and
Yeah, it's a cool little kind of pocket of the universe that they've created, and they haven't like tried too hard or been like too winky about it, where it's like, hey, look at this, like um it feels natural to it. It feels
yeah,
organic, or is a better word, rather than like trying too hard to like let's squeeze this character into here when they really don't fit. But we're going to try anyway. So they've always been very, very good about that.
all right. I know that we are kind of both on a time crunch, so as we wrap up, do you have any? Are you working on anything you think of your own that you can talk about, or or do you want to give a pitch for the Dick Tracy book and where people can, find you on social media?
Yeah. So the Dick Tracy book, first and foremost. Yeah. I don't know when this will air, but the order cutoff is March 25th, I believe. Actually, yes, it is. So if people get a chance, go to your shop, tell your shop owner that you'd like it in stock, as a tremendous help and essential. Shop owners. The market is at the moment it's struggling. Things are not great right now. So it helps them to know what people are going to buy. Helps them comfortably and securely order issue. So if they know you want it and they know you're going to get it and you subscribe, that helps them and it helps Mad Cave. It helps everyone. So if you can do that, I know it's a big ask, but if you can do that, that would be fantastic. Yeah, right now I'm working on some more Rick and Morty. I'm working on Barbaric always. I think I mentioned I got hired to write a new script that I'm working on. It's a feature film. So that's cool. And I think that's about it. That's enough.
Well, I can imagine that your plate is full, and I believe with Barbaric, yeah, aren't they doing isn't Bolt Comics doing a thing through Zoop for that book?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I'm glad you remind me of that. I'm embarrassed. Yeah, so on Zoop, it's not a crowd funding, it's a crowd building. So like we're not there's no goal. We're not all we want to do is just give out people more opportunities to discover Barbaric. Vault is actually doing a free to retailer program, which they've done on 2 other books, Unnatural Order and oh gosh, I forget the other one. But yeah, they do this free to retailer where the number one issue is totally free. And they're doing that with Barbaric. Our new arc is called Born in Blood, and the first issue is free to retailers. But you can also go to Zoop. Anyone can go to Zoop, not just retailers. Anyone at all can go to Zoop, and you can get a free digital copy of Born in Blood #1, and you can, buy exclusive covers, or you can buy the trade. There's a lot of merchandise on there. There's a lot of cool stuff on there. And again, we're not trying to hit any goal. We're not trying to make money for a specific thing. This is just, come join the Barbaric universe, have some fun with us, discover the book, and get some cool stuff if you so choose.
Yeah, and I knew that when you mentioned Barbaric that it kind of hit a thing in my head because I do a weekly crowdfunding roundup, and I was like, yeah, that sounds familiar. So I had to quickly go to Zoop and make sure I wasn't, going to make a fool out of myself.
No, yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, I should have mentioned that. And yeah,
No, that's all right.
It's unique. It's something unique and different. And I think it's just a way that, and Vault is very good at this, just rewarding readers or rewarding interested readers, and just trying to build what we do. And like I said, the market is tough right now, so it's cool to find different ways to get comics into the hands of as many people as possible.
All right. I know that we only have a couple more minutes. So are you on social media? Can people follow you there?
I am, I use it sparingly, but I am. I'm on Instagram at Michael Moreci, and I'm at same on Twitter, X, whatever. And I also launched my friend Kier Graff and I launched a new podcast of our own that is called the Filmographers Podcast. We watch an entire filmmaker's career, start to finish. Each episode is one film. We're starting with Steven Soderbergh, so you can check out that as well. That's at the Filmographers podcast. We have a website, Twitter, Instagram, all that kind of stuff. It's on Podbean, Spotify. The teaser's up, and first episode, which is Sex, Lies, and Videotape, will be out March 19th.
All right. Well, maybe when we both have a little more time, we can come back and talk some Barbaric.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. And thank you for the time. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. And yeah, let me know when you're free again. Would love to talk.
All right. Well, again, thank you for taking the time, and I'll let you go so we can both run and do our respective family duties.
Time to get the kids. Time to.
All right.
Donuts.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right.
Good talking. Great interview. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Take care.
Mm-hmm.